Hello everybody and welcome back to Triple Crown Wargaming, where today we're going to be going through yet another old world reveal, and you're here with Max the Chieftain early. Rare, I know, occurrence for me to do one of these things, but I put myself out there and said, you know what, I'll take this one today, guys. And this was the Boxing Day reveal, as they did on Tuesday. As they did say that because it was Christmas on Monday, they weren't going to be doing any reveals on the Monday. So they promised us something big on Tuesday, and they did not disappoint, in my opinion. There was a lot of good stuff revealed and a lot of important information that was also showed off here. So let's get straight into it. Warhammer the Old World, Tomb Kings of Khemri revealed. So, fun fact, Boxing Day gets its name from an ancient necromantic practice in which the skeletons of the dead were removed from their coffins ready for reanimation. The little asterisk at the bottom, after the sentence at the bottom, it does say this was said by Cetra, who are we to disagree with him. So obviously it's a bit of a joke from that, which is appropriate because here at Warhammer we have more than a few skeletons ready to take out of our closet. Weird sentence to say, but okay, let's carry on here. So they revealed the Tomb Kings and Bretonnian core boxes. So these are going to be like, if you're from sort of my generation of starting the game, the battle forces, but a lot larger. They are, well, in essence, these days, the army boxes they release for both 40k and AOS. So you're going to get a lot of good stuff in here. And if I'm honest, these are very good starting box sets for both the armies. So let's carry on here. So there is no single launch box for Warhammer the Old World. So this was a point of contention for a lot of people. People wondering if there was going to be sort of a starter box, like if you're going backwards, a Soul Black Reach from 40k, Island of Blood from 8th edition Fantasy, Battle for Skull Pass, I believe was a 7th edition one. Sort of those sort of combination of two armies in a start box that comes with the rule books as well. So there is no single launch box for Warhammer the Old World. Instead, there are two separate and massive core army boxes, each containing a full 1,250 point army with dozens of all plastic miniatures each. So, although the army boxes themselves look like they do have a large amount of models in them, they are 1,250 points, which, from what they said, I think it was last week, the standard game is going to be about 2,000 points. So, even though these look like large armies, you still got another 750 points to play around with to get more models into your army as well. So on top of that, you get a complete 352-page hardback Warhammer the Old World rulebook, a 4-page reference sheet, 20 D6 dice, one 6-sided scatter dice, 3 weapons templates, and 2 classic red plastic measuring sticks and transfer sheets. So the measuring sticks are the old Mr. Whippies. They are good for sort of your starting box sets, but as we all know, you always graduate onto the full bloody tape measure. So let's just break down what you actually get there. You get the 352 hardback Warhammer the Old rulebook. No more of the old paperback small rulebooks. You're going to get the full thing that has all the lore, all the background, all the artwork, all the rules, everything you could possibly want in a rulebook, which is fantastic. I think this is how they've been doing their starter boxes and their army boxes for like new games for a while now, and it's good to see they've carried it over for the old world, and they're not just going to revert back to the old paper, A5 sized rulebooks, which is a really fantastic point there. You get a lot of book, you get a lot of information, you get a lot of artwork, you get a lot of models seen in the rulebook. The big full-blooded rulebook is fantastic. You get a 4-page reference sheet, which, from what I can remember of other games, the 4-page reference sheet will basically just be a breakdown of how the game runs in itself, from your strategy to your movement to your shooting to your combat phases. It will contain everything and give you a quick reference guide for all your, I'm assuming it's going to be your to wound rolls and your to hit rolls, all the modifiers that include as such, and a breakdown of some of the more basic universal special rules that are going to be in the game, maybe. You'll see a 20 d6 dice, standard. You need dice to play this game, so it's nice that they're going to give you 20 of them. You might need more because some of the units may have more than 20 attacks per turn, but seeing as like a lot of these units are, maybe we don't know if it's back in, but step up might not be in. It might be in, so you might be only get the front rank. Depends. Shooting, do they have a lot more shooting? Because you do get a lot of shooting units in these boxes. You get one 6-sided scatter dice, which is good, which means the template scattering is still in. But what it has alluded to is the fact that the artillery dice doesn't seem to have made it across from 8th edition fantasy, which makes you wonder how how artillery in itself is going to work. How do you use artillery and not roll a misfire dice? Is the misfire chart going to be, say, on a 6? You're a D6, and say a 1 or a 6, you're on a misfire chart? I'm not entirely sure. It's just a bit odd that the artillery dice hasn't been mentioned, but it could be the artillery dice has seen itself to an early grave, unfortunately, and cannot be reanimated by the Lich Priest of Khemri. You get 3 weapons templates, which of course are just going to be small, your large round templates, and the flamer template, which means they're all back. If you lost them in the what's it been, the 8 or 9 year hiatus since 8th edition died, and you've lost your templates and need some new ones, good news, they're going to come back. You could have bought some when Heresy came out, but it's nice to know they're going to be in the core army rulebooks, army boxes as well. And as I said, you get 2 red plastic measuring sticks, Mr. Whippies, and you get transfer sheets for all your transfer goodness if you don't do any freehand. So let's get into the boxes themselves. I'm going to linger on this picture for a while just so we get a full view of what you get. And the Tomb Kings do seem to get quite a bit of bony boys in their army box. And you also get that gorgeous new Khemri Bone Dragon, which is fantastic. And you also get the Tomb King on foot that they revealed. I think they revealed that one back in, I want to say, April, maybe. It might have been the one revealed alongside the Bone Dragon, but I think that's the one they revealed back in April. But if the keen eyes on you will notice that most of these kits are returning old kits, which means that they fit fantastically well in if you manage to keep hold of your Tomb Kings from 8th edition. So on to what you actually get in the box. The Lich Priests have exhumed a horde of 93 Tomb Kings miniatures, a fantastic amount of miniatures you're going to get there, including the magnificent new Lich Priest on Necrolith Bone Dragon, which in addition build a Tomb King on foot. Okay, so that Tomb King was the one they revealed alongside the Bone Dragon. It's the alternative option to put him on foot, or to be built instead as a Tomb King on Bone Dragon himself. So it's interesting they keep mentioning the Lich Priest. Whenever they reveal this, show this kit off, they do always show off the Lich Priest on Bone Dragon rather than Tomb King, which could be a way forward. I don't know. I'm clutching straws here. It could be the way forward. This is the way they want you to play the Bone Dragon, by having a magic user on top of it and your combat lord leading the infantry. I'm not entirely sure, but we're going to see what happens from there. And the rest is made up of enough classic kits to create an army fit for Cetra himself. You get 40 skeleton warriors, which is enough for, as we can see here, 2 units to 20 skeleton warriors, or depending on how Horde works, if Horde is even still in, if anything like that, you could get a big old unit of 40 Tomb King skeleton warriors. You also get 32 skeleton archers, a good sized amount, to be honest. I think most armies will have about maybe 50 skeleton archers in their armies, at least when 8th edition was running around. A lot of Tomb Kings did have about 50 skeleton archers and 2 units of 25, but 32 is a good starting set here. You get 16 skeleton horsemen. Now, in the picture you can see, I've tried to leave as much of the picture in while getting also get the words. You can see that 8 of the skeleton horsemen have been built as what was skeleton horse archers, and the other ones had just been built as skeleton horsemen. Now, it's nice to know that the multi-part plastic kit is still in, and it might just mean the return of that you can build all 16 as horse archers, you can build all 16 as horsemen, or you can have a mix and match of both. Now, depending on the prevalency of fast cav in the old world, it could be an idea to put them in as skeleton horse archers. But seeing as we've seen that cavalry does seem to be quite powerful in the old world, and depending on how good the horsemen are, they're obviously not going to be heavy cavalry, from what I can assume. But you might want to consider making them all horsemen anyway. Who knows? It could be interesting. And I've said the word. I was trying so hard to not actually say the word, but I've said the word now. What I'm also trying to gauge here is what size bases those horsemen are on. I'm going to quickly just shoot down to the next picture. I think the horsemen and horse archers are still on the 25s by 50s. I could be wrong, but from the picture there, I think they still are on the 25s by 50. So that might mean that the sort of light cav of 8th edition are still going to be on your 25 by 50. So your Marauder Horsemen, your Dark Riders, your Illyrian Reavers, they may all still stay on the 25 by 50. And it's the heavy cavalry that goes up to the 30 by 60s that they confirmed last week with the Grail Knights. And lastly, you get 3 skeleton chariots. Now, as we all know, chariots weren't particularly great in 8th edition, but we haven't actually seen any chariot rules for the old world. So chariots could be the big thing for the old world. So again, 3 of them is a good starting point, and you may want to upgrade to about 6 or 9, depending on how many they're going for and how good they are in the game. So overall, I think the Tomb King box is fantastic. I really do like what you get. You get the new big centerpiece in the Necrolyth Bone Dragon. You get Tomb King to lead your army. You get Wizard Caster. You get all your infantry you're going to need. Some horsemen, some cavalry, and some chariots. You get a good mix of what else you need. The only thing that's really missing is maybe some monstrous infantry or monsters. But they are hopefully going to be. I think they are bringing them all back. I think they did confirm that the Kemrian War Sphinx and the Necro Sphinx were coming back, as were the Chieftain. So no need to fear there. So let's move into the Bretonnian box. And this one, I felt that the Tomb King one was better. But I think you do get a good amount of stuff in the Bretonnian one as well. So again, I'm going to linger here on the image to show the full picture of what you're going to get in the core army box with Kingdom of Bretonnia. Some knights, Pegasus knights, a lot, and I mean a lot of peasants. And you get the gorgeous new Lord on Pegasus, which is absolute fantastic miniature. I mean, compared to the old Pegasus, obviously this is a Royal Pegasus, but compared to the Pegasus in the back, it's just much more dynamic. It's huge. I really like it. I do prefer it over the old Pegasus models, but that is just by the by. So in terms of what you get in the box, raise your banners to the lady with the Kingdom of Bretonnian box, which contains 76 miniatures. Not as many as the Tomb King box, but seeing as the knights are going to be costing a great deal more points than the average skeleton, it's not surprising. So, the resplendent new Lord on Royal Pegasus can either be built as a Duke or a Baron. Now, Dukes are I believe the 0 to 1, the 0 to 1 choice for Bretonnians, in which is like the big Lord. The Barons, from what I can remember, are 0 to 1 per 1,000 points, so you may be able to get a couple in there. So you do get quite a good options. The fact they haven't mentioned that you can't put a Paladin on a Royal Pegasus. You may be able to put them on a regular Pegasus, but maybe not a Royal Pegasus. So a little trying to think of a word that's not the word. A little bit of a thinking point there, thinking how a Paladin will be mounted if he wants to go airborne. And they're also backed up by a lance formation of 12 Bretonnian Knights of the Realm. So these, as we can see, they are in the classic lance formation, which does seem to suggest they are going to become the lance formation in itself will be getting a changeover. It won't be like ranks of 3 knights per thing. It'll be a 1, a 2, and a 3, and then 3 going from the 3rd rank. How this interacts in the game, they haven't actually revealed how the lance formation works realistically, but it all goes to show that the lance formation is going to be a bit, it's going to require a bit of finagling to try and get working on the board or even on a movement tray. But hopefully, Games Workshop give us some actual specialized movement trays for the lance formation itself. Now they send Knights of the Realm, and by the looks of it, the picture does specify they all are built as Knights of the Realm. Now, hopefully, you can build the knights as knights errant as well, but we'll have to see when the box comes out what you can actually build them as. Moving on, then they have 36 Bretonnian men at arms. Now, Bretonnian men at arms, they seemed good when they revealed the rules for them. They seem like they could do a bit of they could be quite a bit of bedrock for a Bretonnian army. Sigma in the center, they have the shield rule, which I can't remember if they did specify what it did or not. And you can also give them the icon from I believe it was the Penitent. I can't remember what the actual the unit upgrade was called, but I believe it was the icon on the Penitent, which means that they could fall back in good order a little bit easier than it would be on the first time they have to do so. And also with the Grand Army Bretonnia they did show off last week, you have to take 1 unit of peasant men at arms or peasant bowmen. So the fact you get both in this box is a good start because it does show that you have a lot to work with from this box. And then lastly, you have 24 peasant bowmen with 2 defensive stakes. Sorry, not lastly, but you do get 24 peasant bowmen with 2 defensive stakes. Defensive stakes were a bit of a nothing. They were an upgrade for peasant bowmen in 8th edition. Like you got them for free, so it didn't particularly matter. But they were a bit hard ones to try and make the most of. So it'd be interesting to see. And I've said the word again. I can't believe I'm doing it. Really hard to think of a word that's not that word. It'll be fun to see what the defensive stakes actually do in the old world. And now, lastly, we have 3 Pegasus Knights. Now, Pegasus Knights, whether or not the Pegasus Lord will be able to join the Pegasus Knights, I'm not sure. They haven't actually specified whether flying characters can join flying units yet. So whether he can do or not will be a point of contention. Hopefully, this means that a lot of the flying characters can onslaught your Pegasuses and your, what else is out there? Flying Carpet, if it's still in. I don't think it's still going to be in. But yeah, the main one will be like Pegasi, sorry. And your Pterodons as well for the Lizardmen, whether or not they can join units of Pegasus or Pterodons. And he also gets a King of Bretonnian transfer sheet with 176 transfers. 176 transfers. Now, the men at arms on all their shields do seem to have the transfers on them. The axe from, I'm not even going to try and pretend I know what dukedom that's from. I'm not entirely sure, but he got the axe from one of the dukedoms of Bretonnian. So 176 may seem like a lot, but you are going to put a lot on the shields and on the sort of display pieces on the knights themselves. So those are the core army boxes. I think they are really good and really fantastic starting points for the old world. I do prefer the Tomb King one. That's just me. I just think it's got a lot more in it. It's a lot more interesting stuff. Although the Pegasus, Duke, or Baron is a really nice model, I do think the Bone Dragon is equally as nice. And you get the option to build a second character as well. Something to note that someone did point out to me yesterday, as of filming, was that the Bretonnian box doesn't come with a spellcaster in the box. So I mean, straight off the bat, Bretonnians are either going to have to buy another model to go alongside the core iron box to get wizard in it, or it might just mean that wizards aren't as necessary as they were realistically in 8th edition fantasy. Bit of a thinking point there, whether or not why they haven't included, say, just a simple damsel on foot. I know they're going off with their new damsel on foot, and maybe they don't want to put the new model, a new Forge World model into the core army box. But it's a little bit of a weird one. They haven't given you a spellcaster to begin with. So have to see what goes on from there and see how Magic plays in the game as a whole. Now on to the secondary bits and pieces. Your Warhammer the Old World Fantasy Battles in the World of Legend rulebook. This book looks gorgeous. I love the blue. Bit sad to see the old big red book go, but a big blue book is even better at this point. The detailing on it, you got the white, you've got Galmaraz as it should be, front and center. You got a griffin to the left, what looks like a chimera or a manticore to the right of Galmaraz. Bit of a cool one there. You got the shields underneath. So from what we can see are the core factions of the game. So if I follow my mouse here, we have dwarves, high elves, Bretonnians, wood elves, empire, tomb kings, warriors, orcs and goblins, and beastmen. So yeah, so they are all the core factions in the game that are going to be getting the book releases when it comes out. So it's quite nice to see them revealed. I can't see any other specifications in terms of the non-core factions, such as Lizardmen, Dark Elves. What else is out there? Demons. Can't really see anything that specifies them on the rulebook themselves. So let's see what goes on from there. But the book in itself does look pretty nice. The blue is going to stand out a lot, and as I said, sad to see the big red book go, but out with the old, in with the new. We'll have to go from there. So what they've said here, the rulebook will also be available separately. The weighty 352-page tome features over 70 pages of background on the world of Legend. Beautiful. Plus core and advanced rules for the game, an explanation of the winds of magic and rules for casting spells, a gallery of armies painted by the Heavy Metal Studio, and rules of building armies and setting up your battlefields. It'll also be released as a digital EPUB version for easy access to rules on the go. Lovely. The one point that I can bring out from there is an explanation of the winds of magic and rules for casting your spells. We know how spells are going to be cast, and they have said the winds of magic aren't particularly in the game as it is. But the fact they've come out and said an explanation of the winds of magic makes me think there might be some elements of the winds coming back as it is. The what's another word for the word? What's another word? It'd be fun to see. I know I keep saying fun. It'd be fun to see what they come up with there, or if it's me digging too much into it at this point. And then we have the forces of fantasy and ravening hordes. Right, so rules for all 9 factions in the game will be available at launch in one of 2 tomes covering the forces of good and evil, the forces of fantasy, and ravening hordes, respectively. Forces of Fantasy is a 192-page book available in hardback and EPUB formats covering 5 factions: the Dwarven Mountain Owls, the Empire of Man, the Kingdom of Bretonnia, the Wood Elf Realms, and the High Elf Realms. Each army is an introduction, a gallery of miniatures, a grand army composition list, a complete set of unit profiles, so you'll have no need for a separate army book to play, special rules, magic items, and unique spells. Ravening Hordes contains all your evil factions. It's a 160-page hardback book, as there's one less faction. Or EPUB contains similar material for the Orc and Goblin tribes, the Warriors of Chaos, the Beastmen Bravehearts, and the Tomb Kings of Khemri. You'll need the main Warhammer rulebook, Warhammer the Old World rulebook, to use either book. So gone are the days of the separate army books that used to get in fantasy. They are done with now. They're followed the way that Heresy did it by sticking every unit in respective factions. From Heresy, it was Loyalists or Traitors. In this one, it's pretty much good or evil, into a separate book with themselves. So good and bads here. It means you're probably going to get a lot less fluff and a lot less background on each faction as it is. The rulebook, the main rulebook, will contain a lot of background lore as it is, but you'll get a lot less in the army books themselves. The good thing here, though, is if you do have mainly all evil armies, as I do myself, as I have 3 out of 4 of the evil armies, getting one book for all your armies is a pretty good deal, I must admit. I like it. I like the way that Heresy did it. I like the way that I will show not to do it as myself. If you don't like it, give me your reasons why you're not a big fan of it. If it's purely the fact you have to buy 2 books to get all your armies in it, that's fair point. And I submit it is a fair point. But if you're like me and only play evil armies, unless you're a high elf, which I do have a high elf army, so I'm going to buy both books. This is a pretty good deal. I quite like this. I quite like the way I've done this. And just going through what they've said here, you get a complete set of unit profiles, special rules, so all your army special rules will also be in these books, magic items. So each army, by the sound of it, might be getting their own separate and specific magic items per army. I wonder how many you're going to be getting, because 8th edition did drastically reduce the amount of magic items each army had. So the Owen might be drastically reducing that yet again. So you're going to get maybe about 3 or 4 magic items per army, or it just could be the generic magic items that across all armies are available. And unique spells. So by the looks of it, some of the armies might be getting some unique spells. I'd hope so. I would hope that the Tomb Kings get some form of specific raising spell to replenish the ranks of their skeleton units, but we'll have to see. And then moving onwards, then we have the Arcane Journals. Now, this is something separate. So in addition to these hefty hardback books, there are the Arcane Journals. Softback books for each faction that expand it out with history, heraldry, maps, special characters, including a certain undead emperor, magic items, spells, historical scenario, and thematic armies of infamy, which let you select armies of different army compositions. So this is where your specific background lore comes from then. So the Arcane Journals, for instance, we're going to keep reading down here. For instance, Arcane Journal King of Bretonnia has rules for armies of Bretonnian exiles and errantry crusades, while Arcane Journal Tomb Kings of Khemri provides a Nehekaran royal host and the mortuary cults. It's important to know that you don't require an Arcane Journal to play your chosen faction. All the units and army rules are contained in the Ravening Hordes or Forces of Fantasy, but they do provide a trove of extra options and extra depth for discerning generals. The Arcane Journals for the Kingdom of Bretonnia and Tomb Kings of Khemri will arrive at launch alongside their arm releases, with those for other factions following in the future. So it's a good thing if you're a Tomb King or a Bretonnian player, because you get everything you could ever want to play with straight off the bat on release day. For other armies, say Warriors of Chaos, Beastmen, Orcs and Goblins, all the armies I play, I have to wait, and I'm going to be using the grand armies of said factions from the beginning. Now, I don't know about the competitive nature of the grand armies, whether or not the sort of armies of infamy will be more competitive, or whether they'll be sort of less competitive and the grand armies themselves are the best ones to go with. I'm not entirely sure at this point. I haven't seen any of it. But just from the top here, we're going to start from a little bit from the scratch. You get all your history. So everything that would have been in, say, an army book, you get that in your Arcane Journal, Heraldry, Maps, and Special Characters. So, special characters aren't going to be in the Ravening Hordes or Forces of Order, was it? Forces of Fantasy, sorry. The special characters aren't going to be in there. So, from the image on the, see here, from the Kingdom Bretonnian one, I think that was the Duchess Leonise, or not, wasn't it? It was, I can't remember the special character's name, but it was something interesting. It was like, sort of the Fey Enchantress, but not the Fey Enchantress. So all special characters be in there, and we get special character reveal later on down after we finish these ones, and also including a certain undead emperor. So it looks like Cetra will be coming back. It looks like you get more magic items and more spells, so you might be expanded there. So it might be an idea to have to get one of these arcane journals to get the full spectrum of what your army can do at in game. But I think I'm just going to leave that there for speculation at that point in time. And so we have some, and then moving on, finally, we have some new reveals, and the Tomb King miniatures are spectacular. I'm going to start with Nekaf, the emissary of Cetra. Now, Nekaf was a special character that was an 8th. He was the Herald of Cetra, specific Herald of Cetra, and wasn't particularly good. He had a lot of issues with him, namely one of them, he didn't have a model. So it's nice to see Nekaf actually get some love in here, and boy has the boy got some loving. So Cetra the Imperishable has accumulated a true prodigious number of epithets and achievements over the long centuries of his unlife, and this seemingly endless list of titles and victories is recounted in full by his loyal servants, Nekaf, before each battle. Luckily, animated skeletons are very patient, armed with the enchanted flail of conquered kings. Nekaf, emissary, etc., pulverizes those who refuse to kneel before his immortal liege. So, just going by the model here very quickly, we have the Flail of Conquered Kings, which used to be called the Flail of Skulls. Sad to see that name go, but the Gilded Skulls that are attached to the Flail do make me love this model even more. Nekaf is standing quite imposing. So a bedrock that is crawling with scarabs, and he's holding what I can only imagine is a scroll containing all of Cetra's epithets and achievements that he has to read out before each battle. Now, in 8th edition, Nekaf could go on a skeleton chariot, so this model does lend itself to be able to go onto a chariot quite nicely. Rather than stick him on the base, you just take the rock off and stick that rock onto the chariot. Might look a bit weird, but Wizards did it. Who cares? They put rocks on chariots all the time. Overall, this model is really nice. It's really fantastic. It's really dynamic. You got his skull screaming out. All his mummified flesh as well, because the tomb guard the calf was mummified. Heralds were usually mummified alongside their tomb kings, as it was. So it's nice to see that he has got his flesh rather than just being a bony boy. Moving on, because I do see we are pushing a bit of the time here. We have the new Tomb King Battle Standard Bearer. So this has shown the Battle Standard Bearers are still going to be a thing in fantasy and the old world. So we don't know exactly what they're going to do, but BSBs will still be a thing. So going by here, Royal Heralds are the personal champions of Neakaran royalty, mighty combatants in life who retain their strength in undeath despite their withered forms. The greatest of these champions often bear banners featuring the personal heraldry of their master, inspiring the deathly legions that accompany them into battle. So this is an update from the old school Metal Tomb Herald BSB. And I must admit, I do think it is an upgrade. Although the old school one was a lovely model, this one just has a lot more dynamicism to it. The battle standard Barrett, the standard in itself is just really nice to look at. It's got some stone tablets there in front of the tattered fabrics. The massive gilded skeleton screaming effigy on top of the banner is equally as nice. And the herald himself is quite nice as well. Again, mummified rather than skeleton because he's a herald. Wielding a flail or a morning star, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. You could be used as both, I suppose, but it does look more like a morning star as they were the one-handed variants. Overall, this model is really nice. I think you should pick one up anyway when it does get released because the iron boxes don't come with Battle Standard Bearers and they might have more use in the old world than they did in Fantasy 8th edition for undead armies than they did beforehand. And then moving on, lastly, we have the Tomb Swarm. Now, I was going to stay here for a second because these models are, I'm going to say, this is now my word, fantastic. Before I describe what I think about them, I'm going to read a little bit of the background here. So, the Lich priests of the mortuary cults are well versed in the dark arts of necromancy, and they bolster the armies of their masters with writhing tomb swarms, comprised of reanimated corpses of skeletons, scarabs, and all other critters that infest the necropolises of Khemri. These shifting, swirling masses can overpower well-trained combatants with a storm of bites and stings. Now, the models themselves are very reminiscent of the old Prince of Pothas model, which in itself was a fantastic model. Say the word again. So all the scarabs are in that sort of vein of how Pothas was, which is a very good thing because that model was really nice to look at and was probably one of the best models in the old Tomb King range. Next to maybe say the Khemrian War Sphinx and the Necro Sphinx. These models are likely going to be in forged resin. They might be in plastic. I could be happily proven wrong here, but they could be in plastic. And I'm trying to hazard the base size, but because I don't know how big they are compared to other models, they could be on a 40, very plausible, or they could be on a 50. But to be on a 50, they have to be incredibly big tomb swarms. So I'm going to say they're going to be on a 40 mil square. Other than that, there's not much I can really say apart from it's going to be absolute pain to try and paint each individual scarab. And I don't know how that's going to work out. And moving on to pretty much the final bits of the article in itself. So, on top of all of these, a full range of classic Khemri miniatures will be returned to bolster the forces featured in this article, with much more to come in the future. So, all the classic kits are coming back there. So, the Khemrian War Sphinx, the Necro Sphinx, the Ushabti, with bows and with swords, probably. The Tomb Guard, they're coming back. What else is out there? Maybe the old Bone Giant or Necrolith Colossus that was called in 8th edition. That might be coming back. Or everything that was in 8th edition likely to be coming back for the old world, which is really good news and means that you can bolster the armies that you've got without having to rely on either spending extortionate prices on auction sites or trying to find other ways of getting your armies together. So the Bretonnians and Tomb Kings are just the first 2 of 9 factions arriving in the world of legend. The rules for the other 7 will be available at launch in Forces of Fantasy and Ravening Hordes, and look out for miniature releases for the other 7 in due course. So, as I said earlier on, the Forces of Fantasy and Ravening Horde books are going to be released at launch, which means you can play all 9 factions at launch, which is good news. And it does hint at the fact that those factions are also going to be getting new models. Let's go! Fantastic. I said the word. Let's go for it. I'd love to see some new Chaos Lords. I'd love to see some new Empire bits, some new High Elf bits, some new Wood Elf bits, some new Beastman bits. Oh, as much as I love my Beastman, I want to see some new Beastman bits. So that'd be really good news there. And unfortunately, was the last bit here, which really did quite upset. Well, I say that upset. It kind of, it's hard to say. It was a bit of a disappointment for myself because I do have a fair few designs myself, but I can see where they're coming from for this sort of thing. And it says, don't worry if you're a follower for Schutt, which means that Chaos Lords are most certainly going to be in the game. Good news there. Or an interpreter of the Great Plan, which is Lizardman. Legacy Army List PDFs for the other 7 factions from Warhammer Fantasy Battles will be available shortly after launch. Now, big thing there is that the 9 the 9 the 9 factions that aren't going to be available in the main books themselves aren't going to be available to play at launch. Unfortunate, it does mean that some people may not be able to play at the old world at the start, which is upsetting because you want everyone to play the game as soon as it comes out. But hopefully those people do have enough of the supported factions to start an army and get playing straight away. Does mean I've had to put my Chaos Lords on a bit of a back burner, as they were being rebased for the old world, but I'm going to have to move on to something that's a bit more pressing, as it was, to actually be able to use in-game straight away. And whether or not, how long these take to actually come out, I'm not entirely sure. It could be waiting maybe a month and a half, maybe 2 months. I'm not entirely sure at that point. They may have to release the Arcane Journals for the other 7 supported factions first before they begin to think about releasing the PDFs for the Legacy Army lists. I'm not entirely sure, guys. We'll have to wait and see what they do with it and go from there. What are your thoughts about this sort of thing? Let us know in the comments below. All that's left now is to reveal the pre-order dates for this Avalanche in the world of legend. We've got a suspicion it might be quite soon, so they aren't going to reveal the actual pre-order date, which is a bit of an annoyance. They could have given us it there. It could have been like the absolute the cherry on top of the cake for this fantastic article. I'm saying fantastic again. We've got a suspicion it'll be quite soon. Keep an eye on the Warhammer community to find out exactly when. So there is a lot of speculation. I believe this game is coming out in middle of January or early February. I personally think it's going to be on pre-order in the middle of January and it'll be released at the beginning of February. Some of the guys I speak to, I think that's just going to come out in full in the middle of January as it is. I'm not entirely sure. Hopefully it'll be soon because we need to have this game now. This entire 2023 year has been building up to the old will come out as soon as it could. So I'm just looking forward to it as much as I can. So I think that's going to be it from me, guys. I spoke to you for about 35 minutes today. So hopefully you've enjoyed my mumbling and my rambling on about what we're doing here. But what was your thoughts about the Boxing Day release? Please let us know in the comments below. Are you excited for the world? Are you not excited? Are you a bit apprehensive about what is specified here? Are you a bit annoyed by the fact you may not be able to play your favorite faction when the game releases? Let us know below and we'll see what you say about it. But until then, guys, we hope you enjoyed this video. Check on all of our other reaction vids as it was for the old world articles, including the going through the Almanac series. Or if you enjoy 8th Edition Fantasy, we still have a ton of content up for that on YouTube. Just watch those there. And if you enjoyed all that, head over to TripleCrownWargaming.com to visit a Knight of the Realm mustering ground where you can sign up to be a Knight of the Realm. And you can view all of our other exclusive content there. But until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching.
Remember to tag your friends and like, subscribe and share. Then head over to TripleCrownWargaming.com and become a Knight of the Realm today. What are you doing, mate?
You alright?
Do it for Warhammer!